Oh, sweet. You guys ready at 7? All ready? Good evening. I'd like to call the Ferrysburg City Council meeting to order. Monday, November 7th, 2022, 7 p.m., Ferrysburg City Hall, 17520 Ridge Avenue, Ferrysburg, Michigan. Roll call, please.
Mayor Blease?
Here.
Councilmember O'Donnell?
Here.
Councilmember Carlson?
Here.
Councilmember Montgomery?
Here.
Councilmember Sias?
Here.
Councilmember Murdoch?
Here.
Councilmember Kate?
Here.
Item 3, invocation by Councilmember Kate, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Gracious God, you have entrusted us with your perfect gift of government into the hands of imperfect human beings. We pray for your guidance and direction as we work to follow your will for the people of Ferrysburg. Where there is discord, we ask for harmony. Where there is disagreement, we ask for resolution. Where there is conflict, we ask for peace. Where there is offense, we ask for your forgiveness. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Okay, number 5, public comments. This time on the agenda is for any citizen direct brief comments or questions of the City Council. Time for public comments will be given when an agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor. And after being recognized by the mayor, please give your name, address for the record, and proceed with your comment or question. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Lisa.
Royce, 17700 Navajo. I want to thank Craig or the Public Works for adding an extra day on for leaf pickup because they were blowing around, and hopefully they can take the one off the end and just swap them a little bit. So it was good to see that got on there. I know it's hard to do that stuff. I guess my question is on number F, the work session with the ethics ordinance. Are we going to be able to say anything on that, or work sessions we don't get to comment anything on that?
Correct.
Okay, well, basically, this has been an issue for 20 years. And we had an issue back when Kathleen Kennedy was on the Planning Commission, and she was the liaison to the City Council, and she violated sign ordinance during an election and refused to take her sign down, said it was her husband's sign, but you know, she does live with her husband and it is not a good look. And we brought that up to the City Council, and they had a majority at the time, and nothing happened. And I know there's other issues going on right now with Mr. Lyons and all of that stuff going on, and there really is no teeth. The only way that anything can happen to anybody, and we learned this back then with Kathleen, was the governor can remove a city council person for, I believe, very strange things, drinking, or help me if somebody knows the other
Drunkenness.
one. Okay, well, okay, there you go. So, I mean, we can do this back and forth. You know, recall is the only other one, and we did that many moons ago with Mr. Lyons, and he was recalled, and now he's on another council thing. You know, if we want to heal the wounds of this community, the toxicity needs to stop. And we do need to be cordial to everybody, and we all have our opinions, as you can tell by my shirt that but we're free. This is a free country, and we should be able to speak our mind and be able to say and be able to go back and forth. I have some very good friends of mine that we really shouldn't be friends. We laugh about it all the time because, you know, he's got a very strongly Republican family, and we all know that I'm not. And I talk to him on a daily basis, and we love each other dearly. And we do need to get back to that because it can work, and it has worked. And Ottawa County's always been a highly Republican. I pretty much don't have a choice if I live in a community when it's that way. So I hope that the ethics thing, that there's a board beyond the City Council that gets to do that is not one-sided, lopsided, or whatever. So I hope we can come up because this is a long time coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comments? Moving on. Item number 6, consideration for approval of consent agenda. A, approve the October 17th, 2022 City Council meeting minutes as printed. B, approve a bonfire at William Ferry Park on Saturday, December 10th, 2022 for the annual Carol Sing.
Your Honor, I move for approval of both items.
Support.
Motion support, further discussion? Hearing none? Oh,
Your
Rich?
Honor,
Yes.
Craig, I see the fire chief has approved he's in support of the bonfire.
That's correct,
And
yes.
fire department's gonna be on scene.
Yes, it will.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, new business. A, discussion, public hearing to determine the necessity of the proposed improvements to Lake Road private section. Okay, I'll call a public hearing at 7:06 PM. Any public?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Enter to the record, there are some pictures that were dropped off by one of the residents on Lake Road today of the street conditions. She couldn't make it here tonight, so she submitted those pictures. And there was an email from a resident on Lake Road also supporting the special assessment.
Okay. Do you want me to read that, Craig, for the record, or no? The email?
You can, sure.
Okay. Email came from Jane Austin, 16903 Lake Road, Jane Austin and Roger Crees. Good morning, Craig. We are unable to attend Monday's meeting due to COVID. We did attend last month's meeting and expressed our need for a new road and our willingness to pay for it. We would appreciate council's assistance in moving the project forward. Okay. And then there's a few pictures here.
Those were submitted by Heidi Kramer.
Let's see if we can get a close-up for our YouTube video subscribers. Well, maybe not. I know. Yeah, no, we don't need to spend $8,000, do we?
You know, I was just gonna say that to you. I can say this thing here.
Maybe these are new. Okay, any public comment on this for the public hearing? Yes.
Arlene DeYoung, 16927 Lake Road. We're the very last house on Lake Road. I don't know if any of you have seen the new FEMA map that's out. They did this in 2021. We're the little people, we're the island. We're the island with water all around us. I know they brought up the last meeting about water on the road, and the road creating more water, but the road is just in really bad shape. The last time they did it was in 1981, when the city put new sewers in, water and sewer lines. And so that's been a long time, and our part of the road was never paved, so we have many puddles. During this time, I got to our back garage on my paddle boat, and I actually paddled my paddle boat from our front house to our back garage. So there's a lot of water, a lot of problems. Right now, FEMA has a thing where local communities can apply for assistance with any flooding problems in the area, which I sent the document to Craig today. And I think that's something the city should probably look at because we are really flooded. The Kramers, they added a second story onto their home in 2003. And DEQ at that time told them they could not add it without raising the bottom level up. Well, somehow it was done anyway. And they've been flooded out of their house 3 times in the past 3 years. So this is something I hope and pray the city will look at, that there may be help for the area that is being flooded. And I don't, these are the docks here, and Lake Road is here. You can see the flooding went clear down to the end of Lake Road at the bottom of the hill. Another problem, I'm in support of the road. We need something. And it's 55,000 versus, what, 300,000 the first estimate? And you get what you pay for, but we need something. And it's just a terrible situation, and they're gonna pave 16 feet, and there's 9 feet of road there that should be there for our use. So the emergency vehicles, fire engines, ambulances, et cetera, can get in and out. And, I guess on Royal, when they've done paving there were no permits issued, and there was no consideration for necessity. Now, necessity is a joke. If anyone's been down that road, it's terrible. The one thing I wanted to bring up is that when you're approving the special assessment is $2,000 per lot plus the interest. Personally, we have 2 lots, but we want to pay for ours up front. We don't want nor need financing, and I'm not sure if other people need financing or not, but several people I've talked to said that they would prefer to pay right up front. And that is an option, right, Craig? Okay, so, you're not looking at approving 55,000. We don't know because the question was not raised. Would you pay up front or do you require a special? So that is, when you're considering this, you're not really considering 55,000, but I don't know for sure what you are. Because no one got, I hadn't got that information. Yes, that's it.
Thanks a lot.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Craig, the 55,000 does not include financing.
That's correct.
That is the cost.
That's the principle, yep.
Okay.
Okay, any more public? Yes, ma'am, come on up to the podium.
Hillary O'Toole. We live at 16885 Lake Road. And I'm getting this road done. This 15 that I'm aware of. And my understanding tonight, would be determined by the council whether the special assessment district would be enacted or not. So that's something I'd be interested in hearing about. I already know that more than people have signed on that they're willing to pay for this to get it done, so drive down their street. And I don't know what else we can do after all these years to try to get this to be a go. I think looking at it from a standpoint of just pavement only is a huge step. It allows everybody to be able to afford it. If some people choose to pay for it over 10 years, that's their choice. If other people want to write a check, that's their choice too. But we just need to get the special assessment district approved so that we can start to move forward and be prepared in the spring, have the paving people, asphalt people come and get to work. And I brought this up last month also, when the initial assessment was done for 285. That did include improving drainage through an additional outlet. And I just think it might be something for the council to consider, not to take the eyes off getting this pavement finished, but just to consider if the engineering group determined that we need an additional outlet on the street, time for the city to make that, support that by getting that done while the road is being paved, while the road is being torn up. Got to be considerably a lot cheaper to have that done when the road's all torn up, instead of going further down the road and then trying to act on getting that additional outlet, which city engineers recommend. I certainly don't want that to throw any kind of slow down into this process. We need to be ready for the spring, get this road finally done after all these years. We've been through a lot on that road, and I think now we've got agreement from the majority of people that live on the road to do this, pay for the part, pay for what we're responsible. So I would hopefully like to find out if special assessment is going to be posed, if that's the correct word, tonight or not, or what else could the residents possibly do in order to make that happen. But that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more public discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:16 PM. Moving on, 7B, discussion, take action if appropriate, to adopt a resolution declaring the city council's intention to make as a public improvement the reconstruction of Lake Road, to request the city assessor to prepare a special assessment roll for the project, and to schedule a public hearing to review the roll on December 5th.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution declaring the city council's intention to make it as a public improvement reconstruction of Lake Road, to request the city assessor to prepare a special assessment roll for the project, and to schedule a public hearing to review the roll on December 5th. The resolution states header Lake Roads Improvement Special Assessment District, Resolution Number 1. Whereas the City of Ferrysburg City Council on October 3rd, 2022 scheduled a public hearing to determine the necessary proposed improvements to Lake Road on November 27, 2022. And whereas the Ferrysburg City Council on November 7th, 2022 received the comments on the proposed improvements to Lake Road after giving notice to said hearing by publication and by mailing, all in accordance with the terms and provisions of Ferrysburg City Charter and City Code, Chapter 33, and Michigan statutes. And whereas the cost estimate for the improvement has been prepared and has been filed with the city clerk, and whereas the Ferrysburg City Council has the power and authority pursuant to provisions of the city charter and the city code to proceed to construct proposed improvements and assess the city assess costs thereof of the properties to be benefited, and whereas it is apparent that the proposed improvement will be beneficial to and necessary for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of cities, and should proceed without delay. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ferrysburg City Council declares its intention to make the public improvements of the reconstruction of Lake Road with the properties benefited described in partials, and there's a listing of 25 properties that are along Lake Road. Be it further resolved that the Ferrysburg City Council approves the plan, cost estimate, and the improvements, and where be it further resolved that the Ferrysburg City Council requests the city assessor to prepare a special assessment for roll, spread the improvement costs of property and be benefited. Be it further resolved that the City Council schedules a public hearing to review the special assessment roll and to hear objections thereto prior to confirmation for Monday, December 5th, 2022 at or after 7 p.m.
Motion support. Further discussion? Hearing. Sure.
Well, the district is every property on Lake Road, and the roll will be how much everybody pays. So the public hearing happens on December 5th, and that gives everybody an opportunity to object to any of the cost that's being assessed to the property. Right, we've been trying to keep everybody informed on the cost, but this has to formalize it now.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
Craig, this is for 55,000. This is strictly grading and paving and no improvements to drainage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any options for us to do any drainage work? There's been talk about fixing some drain in there.
I'll check with the engineer on that. I'll review that with the engineer.
And we would just, because we're not approving a dollar amount now, we're just moving forward
So,
scheduling the public hearing.
right, on December 5th, we're saying that the cost is gonna be $55,200.
Okay,
If that cost changed by more than 10%, then we start this process over. Unless the city picks up the tab for the drainage. And the drainage, when we had the initial discussion with the engineer, we have to find an outlet, and that might need an easement over somebody's property to outlet into the lake.
thank you.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing. Sure, can you come up to the mic though, just so the public can hear you? Hmm.
Yeah, as far as, looking into the cost of the additional outlet, there are, myself and several other residents on the street feel that that would be a city expense standpoint. Water bills and utility bills are all tied into that. My suggestion, just that timing wise, maybe the time to do that will be not suggesting or either the drainage, the city or the council feels that that's not put the bill on, then we'll just go ahead with what we're gonna do. Hopefully at least have a better look. I just want to be clear on the difference. Thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. DeYoung, did you have something to add?
Earlier I mentioned FEMA has a flood mitigation assistance program, and it has to be applied by Indian tribes, cities, different communities. So that is an option that opened up on September 22nd. It's open till sometime in January. In early 1970s, the city went to the Army Corps of Engineers and requested flood assistance. The Army Corps of Engineers came in and they built flood structures and dikes. And within a year of completing that, 2 properties on Royal hired a dozer and had the dike removed. That dike is now an open water gate for the water when it's flooding to come into our area. So I think that's something maybe the city could look into now. There is funding available for some people. Maybe we could be those some people. We were once before, but the Army Corps of Engineers turned the program over to the city to regulate, and the city turned it over to the individuals. And the city came back. I have a letter with me from the Army Corps of Engineers, the head guy, that said that the city needed to make them replace with equal or better of what they just took out, because it was going to have dire consequences for people, and it has. So I think that's something that we can look at too, and the city can maybe look at that. I sent you something in the mail tonight just before I came in your email. The other thing is there's one area on Lake Road. It's between Gail Dubridge, I don't know, and the house to the west, house to the west of her. That was a lot that was open to be used, and there's a pipe underneath there already, drainage pipe. Now we had flooding on the road because Gail didn't like the noise that the water made going into the lake, so she had someone come in and take the pipe and bury it down under the lake bottom. So we could not cap that to keep the water from coming up, and thus the water flooded the road. So there is already 25 feet there, and they got it put in their name, and it should have never happened because it was there for a reason. If any of you are familiar with Lake Road, there's Highland, there's Royal, there's Lake. And you can stand there and see the houses stepping up. So the water's going to come down on us. And when they platted that, they realized that, and they put that lot in there for drainage. There's a drainage ditch that comes from Royal Road all the way out into the lake. It's already there. It's never, so what happened when the road flooded so bad, thank goodness Matt was able to help us out. We tried to plug it up so the water couldn't come up through onto the road. And he had some kind of device that he could put in there until the lake went down enough and we could take it out, and then we didn't have all the lake water up on Lake Road. Now you're familiar with that. Flooding that- Right. Right, but the water came up through that. So there is already an access to the lake that was put there for a reason when it was planted. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any further discussion? Yes.
I have a couple questions, maybe Craig can help. I'm a little bit confused. If this is a private road, why is the city, holding the tab for the drainage? Is that normal? I mean, wouldn't the occupants of the road pay for the drainage as well if it's a private road?
I'm not sure there's any storm sewer in there. I think there's just a catch basin or something, and the guys maintain it just because they have the equipment to help out.
In the pictures, I seen some storm,
Storm drain.
drains in there, yeah. So I mean, are we maintaining those? Is that part of our infrastructure? No, it was drainage, I thought, in the road. Right here. That's a drainage, yeah. Pictures, in the bottom far right picture, it looks like a drain, cover there. I'm just curious who's responsible for this, I'm afraid once we open this up, it's a can of worms and the city's gonna be holding the tab for all new, infrastructure and drainage down throughout Lake Street.
We're approving a repaving of Lake Road. That's it.
Pressures from the county to bring things up to code and, drainage commission to bring things up to code, I mean,
No, we're in the city of Ferrysburg,
okay,
city project.
okay, alright. Alright, that's my concern. As
Sure.
long as it's covered, then good. Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Craig, is that drain that's pictured in this, is that operable? And does it drain to the lake?
That I don't know. I would have to.
I believe it's right down at the very bottom. And you're having water come up? Road doesn't go through there anymore, it dead ends, so yeah,
No.
yeah.
And the city had a.
Yeah,
And they had to come
Yeah, I appreciate you, yeah, but I do understand, yeah, that answers a lot of my questions. I thank you very much. Yeah, they can't. She was just explaining to me, where the drainage was that were in the pictures and where she thought that it drained, and, I mean, there's no evidence of that. We don't really know what's under there right now, so, but, yeah, so that's kind of what I'm concerned about. Yeah,
Your Honor.
thank you.
Yes.
Craig, this is a private drain, and it's going across private property,
Correct.
and it's not like the city has an easement across that property.
That's correct.
So it's the landowner's gig. It's
That's
not our
correct.
responsibility.
And when there was high flooding, the Public Works went out there to try to help out the problem.
To help out, just like you help out by going and cleaning it once in a while.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item number C. Discussion, take action if appropriate, to remove from the table discussion for new microphones in the city council chamber.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
I move that we remove from the table discussion of the new microphones in the council chamber.
For,
Motion support. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor to remove from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. D, discussion, take action if appropriate to approve a proposal from AVI SPL for $8,969.20 for new microphones in the council chamber. Craig?
So at the last meeting, City Council reviewed two quotes, one from Beist Electric and one from AVI. There were some questions. We asked for clarification from the two companies. Beist Electric did not include a service contract, so their quote holds at the $12,000. AVI indicated that their service maintenance agreement could be dropped from their quote, so they submitted a revised quote without the service and maintenance agreement, so their total cost would be $89,6920. These will be for speaker banks in the council chamber.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposal from AVI SPL for $8,969.20 for new microphones for the council chamber.
Or
Motion support. Further discussion.
Yes,
Hearing, yes.
now, Clear
Bill?
something up for me here. Item C, we just took it off the table. Or we removed from the table discussion for new microphones. Now, item D, we're talking about new microphones. I don't
Correct.
follow. We just removed it from the table. And,
It was tabled at the last meeting.
okay, got it.
Yep.
Just a question of semantics.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. E, discussion, take action if appropriate to approve a proposal from Progressive AE to conduct a traffic study in North Shore Drive, North Shore Estates Road, and North Shore Road. Craig?
So we've had some discussion on speeding on North Shore Road, North Shore Estates, and North Shore Drive. Earlier last month, the City Council reviewed a proposal from Progressive A&E to do a traffic study and suggest some traffic calming measures. At that time, the City Council rejected the bid based on the fact that Progressive A&E was not going to recommend certain items on the major streets. And talking with Progressive, I voiced my concerns, our City Council's concerns with them. They made a revised proposal which would include speed tables as a possibility to help reduce the speed out there. So in your packet was a quote to do the 3 streets, a traffic study, and make recommendations on traffic calming measures.
Okay, I have a question, Craig. I guess from a previous letter document you sent us, in order to paint a double yellow line on North Shore Drive, a traffic study would need to be done in consultation with a traffic engineer. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we don't do it, we can't get the double line,
That's correct.
painted line in the road. Oh, that sucks.
Your Your Honor,
Yes.
Craig, can we put in crosswalks, where the association has those 6 now? Or is that not a legal crosswalk?
So I'm not sure that's a crosswalk because it's not connecting a pedestrian path to a pedestrian path. That's a private path on the west side of the street.
That's why I'm questioning, putting in speed tables. Is that even doable? Because they're not legal crosswalks. They're essentially private crosswalks.
We could put speed tables in areas that are not in vicinity of that crosswalk to the walkways to the beach. So it's not gonna be a crosswalk that it's gonna be put in, if he suggested though, or recommends those, it would be between intersections or in certain areas of the street.
Really, it'd be great to have them right at the crosswalks and put 6 of them in across there. Where the paths are, I guess I should say. That would help identify it as being a pedestrian area as well.
Right. That's what he has to do, decide where the best place to put them.
Okay. So I'm still trying to get it clear in my mind. They keep on talking about 3 areas, and with the passing lane and everything else, they must be talking about the east-west portion of North Shore. There's a
North Shore,
portion from Fire Barn that goes by Ottawa Sands is one portion.
that's North Shore Road.
Okay. Then you get to the county park and you can either head north or south.
Right,
And so there's your 3 sections.
correct.
So we're talking about putting these speed bumps essentially in the section by the lake.
Well, he's gonna do a traffic study, and he might recommend them for North Shore Estates and for North Shore Road.
Okay. We had a traffic study done by our police,
Correct.
done in July. High traffic time. Right now, it doesn't seem, if Progressive is looking at doing a speed study in the next 6 to 8 weeks after after approval, that's ultra low traffic time.
I would agree. You know, in your pack, on your desk tonight was something from one of the residents out there suggesting that traffic study be done in June or July. Yeah. And that'd be the time to do it, when the May, June, July, when the traffic increases out there. To do it now is gonna be a lot different than what happens out there in the summer.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Your Honor?
Yes.
I think this is a big waste of money. We already know what the traffic lights is like out there. We've had numerous discussions on this. I don't think we need to. What we need to do is come up with a resolution to the problem. One moment, please. There is a very simple fix for it. The crosswalks on North Shore Estates, those can be marked, because they do go from across the pedestrian path. We can get some of those signs that say "Stop for pedestrians" in the crosswalk. It is marked as a crosswalk. They do have the signs on the side of the road. Also, something that could be very cost effective is to put up and make a 3-way stop at Maryland or one of the other streets along North Shore Drive. I'm not in favor of spending any more money on any more studies. We have had the studies. We know there's a problem, and those tables that they want to put in there are very expensive. And I think we need to, it would cause more problems, really wouldn't solve it as putting up stop signs would solve the problem. We want to put stop signs at Piney Point, maybe Maryland. That would definitely slow down, and it would also give the police officers a lot better opportunity to do enforcement out there.
Your Honor,
Yes.
we're having all this discussion without a motion.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we do not approve the proposal for Progressive A&E to conduct a traffic study on North Shore Drive, North Shore Estates Road, and North Shore Road.
Okay, so Tim made a motion not to support it.
Support.
Okay, motion support. Now we can discuss further. Bill, did you have any additional discussion items?
I agree with one sentiment that I heard here. I'm all for doing something to calm traffic down on that stretch. As someone who uses part of it every day, I know the problem. I don't go down the north-south stretch very often, but the east-west I am on every day. And I see the speeding, and I know there's a problem. I question, though, doing a study of any kind right now when traffic is at its absolute lowest. We need to wait, like somebody said, I think it's that letter that we got in our package today. Let's do it in May or June or July when things are really hopping around here and we know what kind of usage that is getting. So I'm for it, but I want to delay it.
Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would agree with what Bill says. I guess my question is for Craig, Your Honor. Is there anything we can do without a traffic? You said we can't do solid lines without a traffic study, right?
That's correct.
So is there anything else we're not allowed to do without a traffic study? Like, can we do signs? Can we do something like that without a traffic study? Official, right? Traffic study.
We can install stop signs. City council asked about cameras. You can put a stop sign, a three-way stop sign at Piney Point or Maryland, but, the council had concerns with speeding on North Shore Road. I'm not sure what you do on North Shore Road or North Shore Estates to calm the traffic down there. That's why an expert with a traffic engineer could help us with this.
Well, this traffic engineer didn't think there was really anything applicable, which is why we sent it back last time. And now they're coming back saying, well, maybe we could find somewhere for a speed table, right? So I'm not super optimistic about them coming up with anything for the $7,200, right? Did you find anything out about the civil infraction cameras?
Right, the city attorney, in an opinion that those are not possible.
Okay.
Rich, and then we'll get that lady out here.
A couple meetings ago, we had asked city staff to come up with something that we could do in the short term. And I am just shocked that no one is discussing increased law enforcement. We can pay overtime, enforce the law, and secondly, as citizens, you have to set the pace. Don't speed yourself. But can't we put additional enforcement out there, get a hold of the sheriff, contract in to get some additional human power, to do some law enforcement?
Yes, and the sheriff's department did do that this summer. They increased traffic patrol. They had the traffic patrol car come out there occasionally out there on North Shore Drive just to monitor the speed. But again, when the sheriffs aren't there, that's when the problem is.
You want to come up, ma'am? Okay, come on up. State your name and address for the record.
9150 North Drive. I know all of these streets rather well, and the Estates Road, there's really very few places anybody can pass there. The north or the east-west, there's less. Would be on the north-south, simply because of the curves and the hills on the east-west. So the north-south drive, and that's where I live, is a major problem here. And yes, we saw increased police force, but you're exactly right. As soon as they disappear, it just picks up again. It's a detriment only for a few times. I question, the traffic or, do anything double line. The whole North Shore Drive from the park. Is that a county? The county?
County.
Okay, thanks. County Park to the pier, is all passing. It's all 25 mile per hour. You tell me how anybody can pass a 25 mile per hour. You can't pass at that. There's not a vehicle that can pass. Even a vehicle going 25, a vehicle can't pass that vehicle because they have to go faster than 25. That is just common sense. So why are they prohibiting double lines when you can't pass anyway? I'd like that explained.
I don't have a good answer for you. I don't know if it's the traffic engineer, uniform traffic code, or what.
I would think there would be room for questioning, yes. Why? That is the way it is.
There is a code for all traffic regulations put out by the state, and then we have to follow those. I'm not an expert on that. That's why I'm relying on the engineer a little bit to give me this information.
But do you even think they look at that? I mean, that's so obvious that sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. It can be done, but he has to be involved in it. And that's from the sheriff's department.
I mean, it makes sense to me. So I would like that looked at. For somebody explaining a solid answer. Why that can't be a double yellow all the way. And I know, and I love your idea of the 3. But then and that's within your jurisdiction, Ferrysburg. And then it becomes Grand Haven beyond that. But it doesn't, not less pedestrian, less biking. The same. Start out park, go down to the pier, it's both and ended. Anyway, that's all I have. I had more, but it's Grand Haven jurisdiction, so I don't feel it's appropriate to.
Okay. All right, thanks. Lisa? Yeah.
So, has Grand Haven been contacted yet about this at all?
Not sure. Have they, Craig?
I've talked to him, yes.
Because, to me, a logical place would be where you go into the marina, have a 3-way stop at the marina, one at Piney Point, like you said, and I wouldn't even think it would be a bad idea to have one at Parkwood in North Shore. It's a drag getting out of there, especially when Dogwood was done. With that road going this way and trying to come out, and they'll have to stop. I'm still trying to get used to what Grand Haven did on, what is that, Columbus Street, when they made the one-way. Scott probably
Two-way,
knows.
yeah.
It's like I'm always sitting there now going, okay, which way am I going?
Yeah.
It takes a minute because we've lived our whole life with that being a one-way street, and then to confuse it more, it's only a half one-way street because when you go down the road a little bit farther,
Yeah.
but
That's one way again.
stuff like that can be done, and it is a problem. It's been a problem for a long time, and I think that the 3-way stop, if that's something that's in your realm of doing, you can give it a shot to see, how it goes, and see if obviously Grand Haven would be able to do it too, and just say, give them some relief. The barricade in my neighborhood, we had the same problem with Spring Lake Township and Woodland Ridge and the traffic and everything, and we did a traffic study, and the road was not designed to do what it was doing, and Ferrysburg had no choice but to put a barricade there because you couldn't widen the road. So, I mean, that took 18 months and a lot of meetings to go through that, and it's a little bit different situation, but still, it was two different places that didn't mesh when they did it. So I think Grand Haven would be open with the people that are down there, and the speed bumps would be in Michigan. Plows going over it, you're gonna rip them things up in a heartbeat. And like you said, and I don't know if I don't think you would want to do freeway stops just in the summer and not all the time. I think once you put them in, you're gonna want to leave them. But I think that's the best option, and not spend any more money unless it doesn't help, and then go with an engineer thing to do, because you're not going to be able, like she said, you shouldn't be able to pass into 25 anyways. And so the speed bumps the stop signs at 3 different spots on all those roads, they're going to get used to it and go, there's no point for me going that fast because I'm going to stop in a minute anyways. I think that's the best option.
Yep, thanks. Come on up to the podium.
Very good, 18981 North Shore Drive. Part that we seem to have the most discussion about. I'm kind of encouraged by the discussion. I think we've kind of got it surrounded. I think we're talking about the fact that something does need to be done. If we cannot spend the money on this study, particularly the individual doing the study or the firm doing the study indicated a predisposition to not do anything about it. I mean, although the words have been taken out, it doesn't change what the person's. Anyways, I think of in listening to the different options that you're discussing, I have to agree that I guess the stop signs would calm the traffic. It would cause people to have to stop intermittently going down the road. That would be positive. I agree it doesn't do much with North Shore Road unless you put the stop sign. I don't know what it is, but on the entering from the apartments and condos, so that would be a spot that would kind of slow things down. I walk my dog down that road frequently, like daily, and I mean people are blowing through there 65 miles an hour. So I mean that needs some help as well. There are people walking across the road, parks, a lot of activity. At least there you have walking path that's off the road. On North Shore Drive, you are right there on the road, and there are a lot of kids there in summer. About that, I was trying to understand, Craig. We would not be able to put crosswalks in on the access points for the beach.
I want to double check and look into that.
Yeah, because I think that's another option, that it highlights the fact that there are people moving back and forth, and you need to slow down. A lot of the construction guys, a lot of the people, fishermen, or a lot of the people that to get to the boat and whatever, blow through there pretty quick. We need to give some sense they need to slow down. But stop signs sound good, and I'm not in favor of spending money on studies and predisposed things. But that would be the only way you could get the double yellow lines in. Okay. That isn't predisposed. Anyways, I think that thank you much.
All right, thanks. Further discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Craig, can we count on city staff having some short-term things that we could potentially do?
We'll look
by
at
the
the
next
three-way
meeting?
stop signs, and we'll look at the crosswalks.
Okay, as to whether we can, what we legally can do to mark the crosswalks,
That's correct.
and what we need to do to put in stop signs,
That's correct.
and if we can just move on our own.
Yep. I'll look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like at Piney Point and Maryland and Cambridge. Those are the streets that I saw out there. So,
Your Honor.
yes.
Craig, do we have other engineers that we work with?
Yeah, we work with Moore and Brudgig, Brandon Newhoff, Weiss and Vandenbrink.
Can we reach out to some? Maybe we can get a better deal,
Sure, I can ask them.
or at least more open minds.
Yep.
And, you know, at least prepare ourselves for next summer.
Yep.
Yes.
A meeting or two ago, there was some discussion about putting some cones or some dividers up in the middle of the road, like they do in the construction zones. Is that still a possibility, or is that outside of the regulation of the state?
I would double check on that, but I don't think you can unless there's construction going on.
What if engaged citizens just happen to plop them out there every morning and dig them out?
They would get picked up.
Okay. All right, further discussion? And this is to not be in favor of the traffic study. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, one opposed. Okay, moving on. F, work session ethics ordinance. Craig, there's a bunch of stuff in our packets.
Right, in your packet with some examples, one from the state attorneys and a couple from communities within the state. Just put them in your packet to get a feel for city council, what an ethic ordinance is, and whether there's interest in moving forward or having staff draft something for your review.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
I'm definitely in favor of an ethics ordinance and possibly a committee. But at this time, I have not had enough time to significantly read through all these different ordinances. And I'm curious if we could table this and give ourselves more time to kind of study these ordinances, because once we adopt this, it's part of the charter, and it's gonna be hard to change. I think we need to take a lot of consideration into this process. So I would like to make a motion that we table this for another, oh, it's a work session. I apologize. Yep, okay, I apologize.
Yeah, there's no action item on a work session. All right,
Yeah.
Will, you had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to response to Jerry, if we could come up with, just have a discussion about it tonight.
Yeah.
Have something drafted, that gives us time, you know, gives you time to review what we've been given, look in some others, and then we'll have something final on paper that we'll vote on prior to, you know, becoming official anyways, so.
Makes sense, yeah, definitely.
Your Honor.
Yeah, Tim?
I have actually done a lot of research on ethics ordinance. And I got just a couple things I'd like to say about it. One question is, do we need an ethics ordinance? And the answer is yes. It's a good guideline for conducting business. Do we have an ethics ordinance? Yes, we do. We already have one in place. And we also need to look at what type of ethics ordinance we want to have. The ethics ordinance we currently have in place. One reason we need an ethics ordinance is just some. It tells us gives us the code of conduct and principles of conduct, which are integrity, objectivity, competence, confidentiality, professionalism, duty, accountability, fairness, responsibility. And it also sets standards for ethical leadership, the use of moral courage, consider personal and professional reputation, set the right tone, maintain inquiring mindset, considering public interest, and consider the right, the good, and the virtuous actions, and to respect others, even those with different opinions and views. I'd like to read in the introduction here from the Model Ethics Ordinance. This is put out by the state of Michigan, Attorney General Dan Nasel, and states, a well-drafted ethics ordinance should provide clarity to the public officials and employees as a behavior necessary to instill trust and faith in government on the part of the public. Ethic laws and enforcement efforts aimed solely at deterring corruption fail to apprehend the simple truth. Such a policy not only fails to achieve its narrow goal of combating corruption, but it destroys trust in municipal officials and thus ultimately undermines both the perception of reality and the integrity of in government. Paraphrasing here, in the end, the touchstone of the integrity in government, it resides in the willingness of good citizens to serve in the state and local governments. An ethics ordinance may be aspirational or punitive. We have an aspirational ordinance which provides guidance to the public officials and employees as expected and in prohibited conduct. It is in our city charter. How many people have read the city charter? Everything that we have that is in these ordinances, these sample ordinances, right there. Also our employee handbook, which also incorporates the boards and commissions' responsibilities. State of Michigan, Open Meeting Act, Freedom of Information Act, and they all prescribe remedies of how to take care of violations of these laws. And lastly, the Constitution of the United States, the Declaration of Independence, with the Bill of Rights. All of that is already there. We're reinventing the wheel. The only thing that's not in this ordinance is a formal way to file a complaint. We don't need to redo an ordinance. It's already there. Everything we need are in these documents. These are legal documents. They have the force of law, and they have resolutions for violations of those laws. Person can be removed from office for malfeasance, nonfeasance, and misfeasance, nonfeasance, and one other one. Well, I won't get one. Or misconduct in office. So what I would like to recommend, and just a couple examples of what we use in the city ordinance. Let me go back to the page here. My apologies. City ordinance 5.7 to 535 compels attendance, orderly conduct. This talks about misconduct in office, business dealings, 535, 5.4. Public has a right to be heard. 5.8, power to investigate. 5.15, recognizes the standard and code of employee conduct. And employee officials include the those who are appointed. The problem I've had, or I see, is this becoming a penal ordinance, where it's going to be used to silence those people or intimidate people that have good intentions. So my recommendation is that we, right here, there's a model ethics complaint form. We can adopt this. This is a formal way of filing a complaint. Also talks about the we don't need a panel. We don't need anything. It's already, everything is described in here how issues should be handled. And I think that's what we need to stick with. And as a caveat, one last thing, as a caveat, you do have somebody who doesn't want to follow the law, they shouldn't be in office. If they, we need to treat everybody the same, whether they agree with us, don't agree with us. They need the treatment. We had a commissioner that came before the city council and said, I don't have to follow rules because my lawyer says I don't have to unless there's, because I don't have to worry about doing things if there isn't any actual damage. Well, you have to follow the rules. I've had a person tell me, I don't care what this other person says. I'm not gonna listen to them. That's not what we're here for. We gotta listen to everybody. I go through every 2 years with the U.S. Coast Guard. I have to watch a video on ethics. That's another thing I would perhaps could incorporate into the orientation for the members of the council and for commission, is to look at that video because it's very informative and it's a great way to learn what to do and what not to do in office, so we keep out of trouble. But we want to be aware what we wish for. While it is a tool with good intent, it has been shown to be used by some people wishing to destroy others as a two-edged sword, ready to tear apart and rip apart the very fabric that binds our community together. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion?
I agree with Tim. The last thing I want to see is more laws piled up on top of more laws. We see this happening at all levels of government everywhere you turn. More laws and more laws and more laws that nobody's enforcing. I like this complaint form. If we can use that to document violations of all the other ordinances and rules that we have, I think that's all we need.
Your Honor.
Yes.
The question I have is, or I should say, I do like our existing code of ethics now. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any enforcement actions that a citizen could expect to seek some resolution on. Fill out the complaint form. Who does the complaint form go to? Are we expected to police ourselves if it's somebody on council? Or are we gonna appoint an independent body that meets as often as the Brownfield group does, as needed, of independent people that are not from this area, but from a surrounding city or township? Or is this gonna be left to the city attorney and the city manager to address? Where's the complaint form going?
That is already addressed. It would go to the city manager and the city attorney, sent by also the chief executive officer of the city.
Yeah.
Executive officer of the city, but what authority does he have to act? There's no punishment. He has no way to act
Yes,
with
you
his
can.
authority.
You have misconduct or malfeasance,
Yeah.
or nonfeasance in office. There are remedies in the law that tell what can be done. Yes, there is. Read it.
It has definitions of what's right and wrong, but there are no definitions of if you break this law, you get $500 fine and so much imprisonment.
Read the law.
I'm not talking about the law, I'm
Read-
talking about the charter, Tim.
It's right here.
That's a fair meetings act. That's totally different than our charter.
It talks about.
I'm talking about our charter. There's no teeth, there's no authority in this charter to punish council members or city employees if they act in a misconductive way.
So you want a punitive ordinance?
I believe so. I believe that people should be held responsible for their actions, don't you?
If we follow the code of ethics that is followed in the book, we don't need to have punitive action.
I understand we have code of ethics, but there's no authority behind those ethics. There's no authority behind those ordinances. So therefore, if I do something wrong and use my power to influence a bid so I can get kickbacks, Who's gonna punish me for
Right.
that?
The issue that Jerry's getting at, right, is we could say that we don't need to do anything on North Shore Drive because there's a speed limit and everybody needs to follow it, right? But that's not our reality.
If what you stated, if you did that wrong, you can be removed from government according to the state law.
I agree, but by who? By the governor?
By the
You would
governor.
have to petition the
If you're an
governor.
elected official.
Why would somebody have to go through all that when they could just write a complaint form? It would go to an ethics committee, a 3-party or 5-party committee, and they can make that decision right there and then what actions to take pertaining to the wrongdoing. Why
State
should
law-
somebody have to go through
state
the
law is-
county and the state government? They should handle it right here by a non-biased committee, by citizens that are from outside the city, possibly, ex-judges, attorneys, people that can be trusted to be non-biased and have a fair opinion, Tim. This ain't to punish anybody. This is just to keep, city council and city employees in line. That's all this is.
Code of ethics is to keep the people in line. The state of Michigan already has in place, if you violate the code of ethics, removal from office.
I've said all I
We-
gotta
we-
say. I'm
we
not gonna go
cannot-
back and forth on this for
I,
3
I would
hours.
I would agree though. I feel like we need some sort of a board that reviews this stuff. I don't want to put more work on Craig, and I'd hate to pay attorney fees for something that we could have a volunteer board do. I don't think it's appropriate for us to review them. I think this council and past councils have proved that we have trouble staying unbiased at times. And I'd rather have just a select group of, unbiased individuals, like Jerry said, from the community, from another community, whatever, maybe not from our community because it's so small and so many people have relationships and know so many other people. But I do think it needs to be an independent party that's reviewing these complaints. And I think that there needs to be some sort of a step in place for options for them other than calling the governor, right? Like, that seems extreme.
Can't be removed from an elected office without the governor's approval. So even if the board recommends
Well,
it,
there's
you can't remove it.
other things that we're able to impose other than removal of office. I agree that you need the governor's approval to remove someone from office, but there's other things that we can impose.
I have seen this too many times in other cities be used as a weapon against people that don't agree with others, and it causes a lot of more problems than what it solves.
Can you give me an example?
I can give you,
So my point is, if there's an unbiased committee, we don't have that issue.
you're not gonna find an unbiased committee. You can't find, everybody has an opinion, no matter where you're at. It's the same as trying to find an unbiased jury. You're not gonna find an unbiased jury anywhere unless you.
I think to Jerry's point, if we were to be diligent about it and find people that are used to making these decisions, like retired judges, for example, right, we'd have a better opportunity. Or even going to something, I don't know, that's why we're having a work discussion, right? But
Your Honor,
Yes.
we do need to have some type of form and some type of relief that the citizens have if they feel they're being wronged. And right now, we don't have that. We've got the ethics document, but there's no redress for a citizen that feels they're being wronged. And,
With a complaint,
but
and the city council.
if it's against city council, you can't count on city council. You can't count on people to police themselves. And so I like the idea of the forum, and I certainly like the idea of an outside party looking at it. I think sometimes the city manager might be too close to the action to talk about bias. The city council might, or city manager might be too close to the action to not be biased. And I really don't want to put the city manager in that position.
especially since we
do
write
that.
his reviews.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
Not
I think
really
that-
fair to him.
I don't think it's fair to the city manager to expect him to do that.
Well, the board would be made up of, according to the procedure here, would be one Republican, one Democrat, one independent person.
Your Honor,
And
why,
that-
why,
We're a
this is a
nonpartisan
nonpartisan group,
group.
why,
Nonpartisan,
yeah,
yeah.
why are we making this a
We're a
party?
nonpartisan group.
I mean,
I'm-
it's
I'm-
important to remember this is just a recommendation, right?
I'm
That's-
saying this is what has been stated in these documents.
No, that's not true, Tim. I read from, this, gosh, I went through this stuff so fast. Yeah, it recommends who the, that's just not true. No. No, what I read in these documents, and I don't know where it is, that they advise a three-party panel, all bipartisan, all non-biased, biased, and they recommend that those three people be decided by the city clerk, the city official, and the city council. That's what I read in these papers, but I just got them on Friday, and it's a lot of reading, and I haven't been able to go through it all. But that's what I would like to see, either a 3 to 5 party ethics committee appointed by city council, city treasurer, and city manager. And we can go over names, and I don't know if you wanna do that in private or how we do that, but, you know, that's all for, we're just discussing this right now, so, you know, just some food for thought. That's what I would like to see.
Craig, are there any other governmental board of ethics in the local communities, right? Like, is there like a county board of ethics that we can refer things to?
I'm not sure at the county level. I know the city of Grand Haven is looking at this also, though.
Yeah. I think whether you go, I understand what Tim's saying with a Democrat or Republican and a Libertarian or an independent. I understand Jerry's, you know, bipartisan. I just think that the bottom line is we need something, right? An unbiased group outside of this room, right? That is reviewing these, and then we need to update something to give them options of action, right? Other than phoning the governor, because, you know, phoning the governor is not always appropriate, just like removal from office might not be appropriate, right? There's actions we can that they can recommend prior to a removal of office.
And to Will's, you know, I think an ethics committee calling the governor asking for removal would go a lot further than a council member or mayor. That could be a bipartisan, you know, choice, so, or decision. So, yeah, another reason for an ethics committee. Sorry to interrupt you, Rich.
Sure.
Complaint made, there's nothing to back it up at this point.
So someone can make a complaint and allege somebody from city council or an employee violated the standard of conduct or ethics policy. And if it's a standards of conduct, and then that could go to city council and they could decide whether to take action or take no action.
That's all there is right now in place.
That's correct.
Even
Unless a law was broken.
Right.
But even to take action, right? What does that mean? We ask the governor for removal. Is there any other action they can take?
We could vote to censure.
Censure. Yep, that's
And
better.
what does that achieve?
That's just basically a public spanking.
Sure, right.
is what
So-
it is, just a
so-
black mark.
So
That's all it is.
if I break a rule out of the employee handbook, right, you can censure me, or you can ask the governor to remove me, right? But that's it, right?
I don't think a violation of the personnel manual, unless you're violating the standards of conduct, and then the city council could take action or no action.
So if I broke a rule in that employee handbook, for example, for posting a picture of the Ferrysburg sign on my Facebook page without the council's permission, what could that result in?
I'm not sure that'd be a violation, but if you sit there and.
Well, it is. We've proven it's a it's a violation.
The city council approved that, allowing that with council permission.
Prior to that,
Yeah.
they did not.
So if, for instance, as an example, if a council member went to a employee and was trying to direct them to do certain things, that'd be a violation of standard conduct. Then that could be brought to city council, and city council could either say, or take action or no action. I'm not sure it rises to the level of malfeasance or removal of office by the governor. That's correct, yes. You could file a complaint, but I'm not sure if it's not against the standard of conduct or code of ethics, there would be anything that.
But I think that's why we need it in our
there's nothing.
as an ordinance, right? I'm not saying like if somebody slips up and we give them a $500 fine today, right? But we need some sort of a tiered approach to addressing unethical or inappropriate behavior. And right now, it sounds like we just don't. We go 0 to 60, but we have no in between.
So, the question comes, code of ethics gets some gray area sometimes, and you could have one person file a complaint, and city council doesn't do anything. A week later, another person files the same kind of complaint, and.
Well, that's why we need to take it out of the hands of city council, at least for the initial review portion of it. We need an independent ethics board, right? And I'm curious to see what Grand Haven comes up with, because I know they're having these same issues.
Yeah, Craig, does other communities have a standalone ethics board that you know of? I mean, these are examples of some of the ordinances, but that you know of, to any other communities around here?
I think these ordinances create independent board to review of complaints.
Okay.
I can check with the county and see what they have.
Yeah, check with the county, see if they have anything like that. Tim, does MML have anything? Do they say anything in that
The
ethics book?
consequences for violating the ethics ordinance can range from no sanction or penalty, public admonition, reprimand, public censure, forfeiture of office or removal proceedings. So if someone, to make it that somebody could be removed from a commission from an appointed position, only the governor can remove from office for a recall. Disciplinary action, termination of contract, that's for vendors or contractors, municipal civil infraction, cumulative sanctions, misdemeanor, felony, and a review of the decision. The considerations, what standard conducts are to be enforced, who will receive and progress complaints, investigate, decide whether violation has occurred, decide whether sanction should be imposed, enforce the sanction, oversee the process, provide advice on whether proposed action violates the ethics ordinance, provide training for those on whom the ethics is applied. At what point in the process does the Michigan Freedom of Information Act and the public right to know take effect? And there's a lot of other, and then it goes more in depth into the different types of actions that are taken.
Does it say anything Yeah, that's good. And MML has a lot of good, programs and platforms and outlines that we can adopt. I have no problem with MML's work in politics. There's a lot of other ethics programs out there too. I know Michigan State has some good ethics guidelines as well. So there's a lot of them out there.
Just a side note, I did order from MML the ethics handbook in municipalities, and they stated that they would they don't print them until they're requested, so they said they'd get them to me as quickly as possible. This is also a good example of why it's really important to belong to MML, get involved with them, because this is stuff that you can get. We can get it for free. They got a lot of good training, and we can get a lot of help from them on dealing with issues that we have to deal with.
Okay. Any other discussion, or did you get direction, Craig, a little bit? Check with the county?
No, he didn't.
Ooh.
Well, I think
I
the
could
general-
check with the county, see what they can, if we could refer an ethics complaint to their board if they have one.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
And can
then
we get this complaint form adopted?
I'd
Yeah,
like to move forward, adopting that complaint form.
You guys
And-
like this complaint form? Everybody likes that?
And I'd like to see something in the form of an ordinance that gives us options for addressing these complaints. Right, because at this point, even if we do have, so if the county has a ethics commission that we can refer stuff to, great, but they can't enforce anything.
Right.
Right, so we still need some form of enforcement in our ordinances. So maybe we can get something drafted as a form of response to ethics complaints, similar to what we have here. Anybody opposed to that? At least something drafted for us to review?
Yeah.
No, I don't oppose it. We did have some examples from other cities here.
Sure.
Yeah, and I was reading some of them, and the Hamtramck, how do you pronounce that? I'm not sure, but it seems like a pretty straightforward ordinance, and it's really easy to read. It's easy for citizens to follow, and something like this would be great, I think, backed by, again, an ethics committee. So, but that's why I'd like to read all this, because there's a couple other examples in here, and MML has examples in the state too. So, because this is something we can bring up again on a work session and kind of cipher down where we want to kind of pinpoint this, where we want to maybe go over this stuff a little bit more and kind of go over with the council and decide which one we'd like to, kind of follow. Because this is an ordinance we're going to have to write ourselves. We can't rely on the planning commission and zoning to do this for us. So it's something that it's going to be painstaking, I know, but it's something that we have to do.
Yeah, that was my thought, was we get some sort of a draft on paper, and that gives us an opportunity to discuss it again.
Yeah, agreed, yeah.
So you guys want to discuss it on another work session?
I'd prefer we just ask Craig to have a draft drafted. Right?
Okay.
And we discuss it at the draft review.
Okay. You got enough information for a draft, Craig?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Are you good with Jerry?
So, Your
Yeah,
Honor,
yeah, definitely.
are we not going to look to have a board?
No, we're still looking at it.
Craig's
gonna-
going to draft
we're
something
still
up
gonna
so
look
we
to
can
have a
discuss it
board.
further.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be part of the ordinance. And then at our discussion to review the draft, that's where we have additional conversation. By that time, everyone should have time to review the examples we have. And Craig will have time to reach out to Ottawa County and see if they have some sort of a board in place or not. And we'll also see what direction Grand Haven went.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's move on to G, work session classification and compensation study. Greg?
So earlier this year, City Council approved proposal from the MML to do a classification and compensation study. They finished that up and the copy is in your packet. One concern that staff had when we started this with MML is they were starting this project in April, and that was the time when high inflation was coming around, and a number of communities were increasing their wages to help employees combat the inflation. And when the MML was doing their study, they would not use projected increases for 22-23. They wanted to base their study on a one-day snapshot in April. So they did that, and their results are in your packet. But I'm not sure it reflects accurately the wages that increases that were given to employees in other communities due to inflation. Some of the highlights in the study. If you look on page 3, it talks about the city should probably update our job descriptions, and then compensation indicates that terms of earning capacity, the city is 6% below the maximum, market maximum. Next page, so the city is more generous than the market with vacation and sick leave, and the city does offer a retirement health savings plan with a match. And the city is less generous with respect to life insurance, especially for non-management staff. Page 5, the last paragraph, the city's pay levels taken in total are 11% below the market. Page 6, market has an average of 10 paid holidays. The city has 9. And vacation, the Ferrysburg's vacation accruals are more generous. This next page, page 7, the city provides 12 annual sick days, which is 2 more than the market average. The city provides 3 personal days compared with the market of 4 days. And overall, the paid time off program for the city of Ferrysburg is more generous than the surveyed market. And then getting toward the bottom of 7, the city is less generous with life insurance for non-management staff. Page 8, the city offers a defined contribution plan with a required 5% employee contribution, which is and a 10% employer contribution, which is on the more generous side compared to the market. Again, it talks about the match of the $10,000 the city puts in for our employee health retirement savings plan. You know, they talk about the life insurance for non-management staff. That's a low cost that can be increased. Basically, I bet we spend $750 a year on life insurance now. Increasing life insurance, I'm not sure that's going to be a deal breaker for an employee coming or leaving the city. You know, I think their employees are looking for wages and benefits. Life insurance is a benefit, but that's not a benefit that's going to keep someone in the city or attract anybody to the city. So I did a comparison a little bit of where we're at. If you go to page 10, it has a table on the top, and it talks administrative assistance, what the current pay is, and that was for fiscal year 21-22, and then it has recommended pay ranges, and for fiscal 22-23, currently we're at 1976 and 2080. So even at 2080, we're still below the midpoint of what the recommended wages. For going across on the public service technicians, 1, 2, 3, and 4, those current year in the green is 21-22. For 22-23, we're at 1838, 1945, a 2080, and a 2588. So the top 3 were below the midpoint on recommended pay ranges for those personnel. City clerk treasurer, we're pretty close to the midpoint at this point, so we're for 22-23. Public service supervisor for 22-23, we're at 3622, right below the maximum for that pay range. And for the city manager, we're at 104,600, a little above the maximum for their study. So next time, wage increases are typically passed out to employees is when the fiscal year begins, which would be July 1st. We've been basing our wage increase on the state CPI. We expect that to be announced within the next week or two. We don't know what that is right now, but with inflation, the CPI is going to be up there. Social Security just got, I think, an 8.1% increase for 22-23, or for 2023. So going back to the CPI, even if it comes in at 8%, our taxable value with the Headley Amendment and Proposal A can only go up to 5% max. So with the Headley Amendment and Proposal A, the taxable increase on your property can go up 5% or CPI, whichever is less.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
In reviewing the wages that were offered, we do have just, we have two public service techs that are below the minimum recommended pay ranges. One by 3 cents, 1945 as opposed to 1948, and the other one 1838 opposed to 1948. And when I was looking at this, way in the past, some of the other employers have looked at the mid-range or medium, midpoint, and maximum. Some have looked at years of service, and a couple of our technicians one has, I believe, 4 years. Next one has 7 and 8 years. And then you look at the recommended for the continuum of the job. The range, if you're new, you're in the medium, the minimum range. You've been around for a while, and I'm going over off a couple past jobs I've worked where we've looked at wages. Minimum is usually 0 to 5 years. That's when you're learning your job, getting skilled, and then by 5 years you should be pretty much know your job and be working beyond, and then so 0 to 5, 5 to 10 for midpoint, and then 10 to 20 for the maximum, where you exemplify or exceed your expectations. They're all pretty, I think, overall the compensation. Craig, can we well, I'm thinking maybe perhaps we should move the one technician that's below, move him up to the minimum, which is 90 cents more, or perhaps looks like it's pretty well. The only thing it didn't include in here was firefighter. Oh, in the MML study.
Oh, in the study.
Yeah. And actually, this is to really how I really pay attention to this. That's where I found out how much I'm making. I don't even pay attention to that. I just do it because I like doing it. So, and other firefighters will tell you the same. They do it because of the job.
Connor?
Yes.
Craig, weren't there some pay levels that we were going to revisit in January?
Right, when this first study started, we built a little cushion into the wage budget, so if the city council, when they got the study, wanted to make some adjustments, they could do it at that time, beginning July 1st. There was no specific position that was discussed on which ones they needed to increase or by how much, so.
I thought when we did your most latest review, that was a 4% because that's what all the other staff received.
That's right.
And then we talked about revisiting things in January, right?
Visiting now for January
To
1st.
get prepared for January.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And some of these, like Tim is suggesting, some of these, we might have to bump up the base rate to get ourselves in a competitive situation.
That's correct. It's a competitive market out there, and employees are offering bonuses and the such just to get employees, and we have a good staff. We want to keep them.
Does city council feel comfortable reviewing all this data and coming up with some suggestions, or should we rely on city staff to chew through it and come back to us after we have the state CPI number and that type of thing? What,
I would like to see our supervisor also take a look at this and see if what he would recommend based upon the person's performance.
It would be department heads would have some weigh in on their staff, correct? Yeah, we can come up with something.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't see city council in here. Hey, I know we got a raise 2 years ago, but before that was like 17 years. Okay, let's move on. Public comments. Lisa, come on up.
I truly believe there needs to be some kind of censure, something for city council, not just city council, but for other departments. I mean, over the last 25 years since I've been coming and doing stuff for the city of Ferrysburg, where I've lived for the community, we've had officials from Spring Lake Township steal signs and nothing happens to them. And I went to city council meetings over there to address it and got shut down because the board wouldn't do anything. I mean, that was actual theft on camera. Police departments were called. I mean, I was out of town one time when it wasn't this board, few people were on the board, where I was out of town, I called Craig, I was on the agenda to speak, and Mr. O'Donnell and Mr. DeWitt decided that I couldn't make it and they wouldn't table it. Well, I'm a citizen, they should, I mean, on a Friday, I was out of town, couldn't be here on Monday because I wasn't coming home until Tuesday. I should have had the option to table that or get it moved to a different time, not to have it removed for, what did they say, where I couldn't bring it up again. Well, obviously, that's not gonna stop me because I can bring it up again, and I did. But city council should not be able to tell a citizen they can't bring it up. So I like the idea of there being something, but I think there should be a censure. There should be a paddling or whatever you want to call it, just so, I'm not saying removal, I'm not saying whatever, but if, I mean, I'm gonna pull Kathleen Kennedy into it. She was in Spring Lake Township, so was I. She violated the sign ordinance over there that she wrote. Then she turns around and comes to Ferrysburg and does it again and gets it away with it again. And I happen to be here too. The point of the matter is that is misconduct, okay? She had the Risinger family behind her. They had tons of money. Luckily, it went to court because they had a bigger sign than me. My sign said big money buys big signs, which was kind of funny on the Savage Street. But the point of the matter is I played the game. I can play the game. The truth will come out. They went to court. They spent a lot of money on it. They lost. Okay? I mean, those kind of things happen, but city council shouldn't get to do that. There should be somebody else that takes our complaints, and everything doesn't rise to the level of recall. Everything doesn't rise to that level. But a person shouldn't be turned away because they're out of town, and I go to be on an agenda item that I asked for with a Friday, okay, you're gonna be on there Monday, when I was out of town. I had waited for it, didn't think it was gonna happen. So I know it's a lot, but I think Grand Haven's having the same issues. I think it happens all the time, and nobody wants to do it, but the current stuff that Tim put out there has no teeth. There's nothing there. And hopefully we will never have to use it. And we can start working things out, but there should be something in place for people to be able to say, hey, this needs to take a look at, and have somebody else objectively look at it that's not this council. You know, and this council maybe shouldn't look at boards and stuff either, you know, because they, you know, are their or can move them around or do whatever. I think it's about time, and I think it's long overdue. But like you said, everything doesn't have to be removal of office and be whatever. Some people say things in the heat of a moment, and you should get a slap on the wrist and say, you know what, don't do that again. And that goes for everybody, you know, and we all pay the price of that, but we need to get on the right track, and I think that is the right track to be on, but thank you.
All right, thanks. Any more public comments? Tribune back there, Kayla? Got anything? Got anything for us? All right. All right, report, city manager?
No report?
City council members, Debbie?
The beautification committee, I think did a great job on the Monster Mash, if I can say so myself.
Oh,
I
sweet.
think it was pretty well attended compared to what people are telling me from before. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, and the kids really had a blast, I think. So now we're on to the carols thing, December 10th. That's our next project, and we have a meeting next week, so we'll finish planning that. Thank you.
Oh, cool. All right, Jerry?
Couple of things. I read through the report of the inspection from B&H on Smith's Bridge, and I noticed that they recommended we do some patching on the bridge. Can we get that? Is that going to be done, Craig? All right, great. Another thing, just a reminder, Ottawa Sands will be closed November 8th through the 21st for an annual wildlife hunt. Violators will receive citations, so there will
Or a
be
bullet
hunters.
hole.
Or a bullet hole, yeah, so enter at your own risk, if you say, as you say.
Be careful.
Another thing I wanted to address, in our packet, I seen a letter from Chief Olthoff, concerns over Ottawa Sands not following procedure for development. Is that an issue that the city council needs to address, Craig, or how should we go forward with this?
We're
It
working
sounds
through
like
it.
he's got some good complaints, or good.
Yeah, we brought the fire chief and the public works department out. They wanted the size of the water main that was gonna go into their property. We had some concerns with that. The fire chief had concerns with hydrants and so forth. And so, the fire chief has put together a letter that you saw to Ottawa Sands asking what needs to be done. And, we're working through that issue.
The report.
Okay, Bill?
No report.
Will?
Just applaud Deb and the beautification committee. It was a great time. My kids had fun. Seemed like all the other kids and families. I saw some bunch of adults dancing and everything else. So just a very, very good time. I guess my one recommendation would be to maybe have a conversation in your after action just about how you can better get the word out there. I know several people said they drove by and saw the sign and ran home to get costumes, but if there's anything else we can do to get the word out there, and that's with everything really in the city, but it was a good time. Great job by everybody. My daughter had like 16 donuts, so.
The white ones.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, Rich?
For the Monster Mash, I know from a promotional standpoint, I had shared it with Grand Haven Informed and Spring Lake Informed and Norton Shores and everything else to try to drive traffic there. makes a big difference if more people do it, and then, coordinated attack, that if I know you're doing it and you know I'm doing it, then we can like each other, and that helps, boost it quite a bit. When they don't get any likes, thumbs up, it's not gonna get seen very much. Yeah, that makes a big difference. This is a great thank you letter, Craig, we received about city staff being so helpful with the Johnson boiler fire. That's a great thing. And I see even the politicians got called out.
Oh, okay.
So that's
How much do we owe you? He goes, hey, it's on us. Don't worry about it. Taxes cover it.
So we talked about Ottawa Sands and the size of the service and fire hydrants. That's critical that gets taken care of. I'm glad to see the police, fire chiefs on that. And then a couple times now in our packet, it's been this where a citizen is harassing other citizens. Is there anything we can do in regards to that, or just feel these people pain?
Unfortunately not. You know, if there's something that breaks the city code or something like that, we will try to address it, but this has been going on for 4 or 5 years, and it just seems to be escalating a little bit lately.
Okay, Tim?
Okay, one thing I forgot in the last meeting was, in early October, the Ferrysburg Fire Department took part in a hazardous materials live exercise with the put on by the state and the Michigan National Guard Special Tactics, or their special unit that deals with weapons of mass destruction. We were assigned to a building here in Ferrysburg that had a suspicious package outside and radiation detection outside the building, as well as some chemicals inside the building that were attached to a suspicious device. We were out there for about 6 hours. We were one of 3 different groups of taking part in this exercise. At the end, during the debrief, we got the City of Ferrysburg Fire Department got accolades from both the National Guard and the state of Michigan on how well we performed. So, and came no surprise to me that we would get that, but just my humble opinion. One of the things we're talking about here was how to get the word out of what's going on in the city. At the MML convention, one of the projects that was looked at for special consideration was a city that, as part of their project, had at their main intersection electronic billboards, like you see on the street, that flash the sign, flash messages, and it could be Monster Mash or 4th of July parade or whatever, having it on there and perhaps getting attention that way. Right on our Pine and 3rd Street, that'd be a great place to have those. Monster Mash, great job. Had fun being the judge. I would have liked to have done it the year before when there weren't as many people, because there's so many choices. It looked like everybody had fun. MML convention, we covered social media aspects. There's a new Facebook is now called something else. I don't know what it's called, but it's Meta. Okay, and in that they have a program that we could implement in our Facebook that would be like we looked at a couple years ago for making alerts to residents if there's a special event that's going on or an emergency event going through the Facebook. I did take part in one of their podcasts. I got into extol the virtues of bragging about Ferrysburg. We We also looked at reviewing the current and state issues and legislative issues, some of the stuff that's coming up, and voted on the core issues, discussed the Spark grant with the DNR director. That comes my last part is the Spark grant that is currently, it started October 24th. The deadline is December 19th, I believe. And looking through, there's not much time for the recreation group to get together and decide what they want to put on the Spark grant, but we can apply for 3 different projects. And the minimum is $100,000 and the maximum is $1 million. They got a total of $65 million. There'll be 3 times over the next year that it can be, we can apply for it. I would love to see us get one starting right December 19th, get 3 projects, 3 grants in there. We do have, I've talked to at least 2 people that are on the grant selection committee, and they said, get them in. Get them in. We want to get rid, they said, we want to get rid of this money. And we don't have to have any matching grants. We don't have to have the 50 points that is against us for the Fire Barn Park, not a consideration. They're all on their merits. And a couple, I'd like to perhaps make a special work session at the next council meeting as possible on the Spark grant, so we can get share some more information on that, and perhaps get some ideas that we can give to the recreation committee at their first meeting, so they can decide, yes, this is what we want to go for. So at the first meeting in December, we can have our resolution set out the grants by December 19th. Couple ideas: kayak launch at Ferrysburg, Coast Guard Park improvement, and one thing that would fit every one of the criteria is a paved biking or hiking trail through the FNP. That would they got different criteria. That's one trail that would fit every part of their criteria, and I think that would be a great idea to take a look at.
So we have a grant that we're proposing for Fire Barn Park, correct, Craig? What date is that presented to council? The first week of December?
December 5th, we hope to have something here for a match.
So we have that on our radar already.
That have to do with Fire Barn Park Phase 2?
Correct.
Okay. The one criteria is this project has to be started on the day that grant is proposed, or is granted. You can't set it down, and it has to be done, got 2 years to spend the money or you lose it. So
we're aware, we're working with a grant writer that we've used before that we're confident in. So we discussed it at our last rec commission meeting, and we're on top of it.
Officially, but there's not just 65 million. There's other money that's out there that we can go for. End of report.
Okay, cool. Wednesday, 2 days from now, we're having the police commission meeting, 3:30 at Spring Lake Village. I attended the Economic Development Task Force Brownfield joint meeting. Jerry was there too, October 19th. I thought was a very positive meeting. We had good collaboration between the 2 committees, and we're working on a report for city council on that. So that's all I have.
Your Honor.
Oh, yes.
At your police commission meeting, will you ask or at least broach the topic of any policies related to private citizens requesting police presence for public meetings?
Oh, okay. All right, I can do that.
Just how they view that as a use of resources.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, sounds good. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, Scott.
Yes, sir.